What illegal thing have you done for the right reasons? I used to work at a CVS. After Halloween, all their candy goes on sale. Up to 80% off. After 3 weeks though, no one candy corn flavored chocolate or bad shaped gummies. So they told me to throw it all away. This was about 2 shopping carts worth of candy. None of it was expired or damaged. Just out of season. Instead of taking it to the dumpster, I placed it all in the back of my car. The next morning it all went to the local food drive center. In all honesty, I did keep 2 bags for myself. The food center sent me a thank you letter saying I donated over 50 pounds of candy. About 2 months later I am called into the head office. They have it all on video, me putting the candy in my car. They told me I owed them $500 in damages or they would press charges. I got a lawyer and argued that dumpster diving isn't illegal in my area. Which, since I was told to throw it away, this is what I did. In the end I was just fired and banned from the store. Charges dropped. Edit, for people asking. Lawyer was a friend of a friend. He basically gave me some free advice and I threw his name around in one of the meetings. It ultimately didn't cost me anything except my job. Shitty job anyway. Didn't like working there. It was an second job and I found something new with similar hours and pay almost right away. When I worked at a pet store, I let a homeless man take dog food and dog treats for free because I didn't want his dog to starve. When I left my shift that day, I saw him eating the dog food along with his dog in the parking lot. Seeing that nearly made me break out in tears. Edit, I guess I should clarify that he wasn't eating his dog. He and his dog were both eating the dog food. I worked at Sears Auto over college summer vacations. A lady came in once with a dead battery. She was visibly distressed. She said that she had to bounce her and check to get the battery. No battery. No car. No work. She asked what the cheapest battery was. I sold her the $50 cheapo, but pulled the $300 super cranker with reserve power cell out of stock. I did the illegal thing and the lunch lady used to help. I was in Seminole Middle way back when in Florida and we were really poor. Like, really poor. I used to steal lunch wraps and salad from the health bar during lunch in the cafeteria. The lunch lady knew. There was lunch A, C, all hosted at different times of the day. She wouldn't charge me until the 3rd lunch. And even then it was next to nothing. I would have a backpack full of wraps and salads that I'd take home and share between my brother. 14 years to this date I have spent every Sunday talking to her at least 2 hours. She is old now and nobody really visits her. I tend to go see her from time to time. When the opportunity arises, I bring her Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas dinners. Sometimes I cook breakfast for her and I maintain her garden. I take her for walks. She's in a wheelchair. I love her. When she passes away, I'd have lost a mother and a friend. I stole a bag of apples from the farmer's market because I saw some kittens that looked hungry. I was 4 and thought kittens would like to eat apples. Also, I got caught and my mom paid for the apples. I used to work at Starbucks. And we're supposed to throw away the breakfast sandwiches after 2 days. Well, I thought that was total bullshit. So I would put everything in a trash bag and throw it away like normal at the end of the night. But then as I left, I would take them and bring them to the homeless that would always congregate at the Safeway next to where I lived. They were very grateful. And eventually would know me by name. It was the most gratifying feeling. Ducky food industry. When I was 5, I stole one of those small paper packets of tomato seeds while we were out buying groceries. My mom's birthday was the next day. And I felt like I should get her something, tomato seeds. I made it out the store and halfway home. Without getting caught. My mom found out when she realized I was walking funny. I was hiding the seeds under my armpit inside my jacket. I now realize that simply putting them in my pockets would have been much easier and I probably wouldn't have gotten caught. Mom made me bring them back and apologize to the cashier. She didn't get a present from me that year. I pirate my textbooks. Like hell, I'm choosing between buying food for the week and paying for overpriced textbooks. I email it to my whole class too, anonymously. Never bought a book in 4 years now. Ran a red light at 3 AM taking an Uber passenger to the hospital. Run a red light. It was 3 AM and I was trying to go home after visiting the folks. Arrived at an intersection that spent way too long red. Drove a little forward and reversed a couple times hoping to trip something in the lights. I put the car into park soon after. Sitting there for nearly 8 minutes. I saw the perpendicular lights turn yellow. I popped back into drive while they turned red. After a few seconds of hesitation, they turned green again. At this point I just said duck it and carefully rolled though. Still avoid that particular intersection at night. I used to work at a thrift store. Not a small non-profit ones but those big multi-store for-profit ones. Anyways. We would get homeless people all the time in the store and many of them would be missing shoes or jackets. etc. So whenever they ask if they can have some items for free I just let them walk out the store. Besides that place is so susceptible to shoplifting. The items might as well go to the people that ask. It was December a good few years ago and I was working in retail. You could spot them a mile off. The grannies and granddads that had saved up their measly pension all year just to buy the grandkids those fancy sneakers or jeans. They would come to the till knowing they had just exactly enough to cover the cost. The look of surprise on their faces when I informed them that that very item was reduced by 40% was one that would have warmed the coldest of hearts. I used my staff discount. I never used it for myself. I did the same for people that were clearly not very well off. I've been in financial diffs myself, still not totally out of the woods yet but definitely on the up, and I know how much of a difference even a few pence can make. Edit. Wow. Really? Gold? Thanks friend. And a big thank you to all those who left lovely comments. It really means a lot. I married my friend's sister so her and her daughter could stay in the country. Looking for something for a project in 8th grade. Clicked a link to a news site with an innocent name. Child porn is on there instead of what it said it was. Freaked out, cleared my history, typed in all caps oh my god that's not what I meant and hoped that no cops came to my house. I used my company's client's personal customer data to tell the police where a vehicle was, resulting in a little girl that had been abducted being rescued. I didn't think twice. And I fessed up when I got back to work. Everyone told me I did the right thing but not to talk about it. It was over 10 years ago. I can be this vague. I supervise student workers. I give them full hours even when I let them go early. They don't get paid enough and I really depend on them and they're great people. I wish I could pay them what they deserve. I'm working on getting that changed but it's a slow process. Conspired with fellow officers and senior enlisted to give one of my sailors 2 months off after the birth of his son. His boy was born extremely sick and we thought he might be gone at any moment. My sailor had no leave left on the books but I didn't want him to miss what time he has with his son. So he phone mustered, checked in so we knew he was alive, for almost 2 months. All of us made sure that if anyone senior was looking for him they just missed him. The story ends on a high note as the baby survived and now, 13 years later I still see his pic from time to time on Facebook. As it happens, his wife talked to me last night and said thanks. I'd do it all over again. Not necessarily the right reasons. But some dude was molesting a girl in HS and I crushed his nose with my fist. I could have done time since he went to the hospital. But a teacher saw it and let me go. Then I got jumped by the dude's gang friends so, karma. I guess. As a contractor in it I had all rights and permissions on the ERP we used. I was working the late shift on a Friday night. We have offices on the West Coast. Well, I get a phone call from Penn State. The money we had set up for them had not gone through. Checked. And someone up in finance did not send it. This guy needed that money now to pay his employees. Or they would not get paid. I called everyone I could think of to get approval to no avail. And this was a lot of cash. I think close to $1 million if I remember correctly. I said duck it and sent it. Knowing I was breaking a federal law. Wrote an email to my boss and the dot supervisor as well, expecting to be fired the next day. If not arrested. Next day. I just get told to never do that again. With a bit of praise. I knew it was a big and also truly neat project. Years later I am reading the news. The money I sent out helped create a machine to help paraplegics eat. I felt so proud to be a little part of that wheel. When I worked at Golden Chick, I would stuff boxes bags full of chicken when it was almost time be thrown out. People's 2-piece meal turned into a 8-piece family meal and then some. I hated throwing food in the trash. Plus customers were usually appreciative when they noticed. In middle school, I volunteered in the school library. We partnered with the Lions Club and held a drive for old eyeglasses to donate. I had gotten glasses in 2nd grade, but my parents used their money on Drew Gus instead of taking care of us kids. So I hadn't gotten another pair. The prescription was no longer right and they didn't fit my face. And I couldn't see. So I went through the box of donated glasses and found a pair that helped me see. And Jay stole them. I'd duty again. I'm a OB-GYN. So in my country induced abortion is punished by law. One occasion a woman was brought to my practice escorted by 2 policemen. She just had a miscarriage. They wanted to find out if she had induced the abortion. While I was interrogating, she told me she was single, worked as a janitor in a small office and had 3 infants waiting for her at home. She seemed desperate and was facing 5 to 10 years in jail. So I ruled out the induced abortion. When I was 16 I took a traffic ticket for my mother's piece of shit then boyfriend. I was working at a grocery store when the manager told me I had a call. I walked over to the phone and the boyfriend was on the other line. He tells me he got into a wreck and he was driving on a suspended license. If the police caught him, he would go to jail. Unfortunately for me, he and I were the only ones working at the time and I knew I couldn't pay the bills on my own. So I told work it was an emergency and drove my car down to where he was. He had convinced the trucker he hit to let him tell the police I was driving. The police came and wrote me the ticket. I had periods in my life where I stole food so I could eat. When my low-income patients go home, I fill a bag of supplies for them to take home from the hospital. Especially if they are going to need expensive as bandage stuff. Edit. We actually do as bandages pretty frequently. Yes, they are prissy. No, they aren't as shaped. D. I technically kidnapped 3 kids, 5 yo twins and a 2 yo best friend's sister's kids. We were supposed to be picking them up for a weekend at their grandma's. Got to their place. No answer at the door or phone. Walked around looking in the windows. We finally, barely, spot the 2 yo sleeping on the kitchen floor. Ended up kicking in the back door, so banto I guess, and gathering up the filthy and hungry children and taking them. 3 days later, mom calls from jail. Didn't ask about the kids, she just needs someone to come take responsibility for her to get her out of jail. After that and many other worse incidents it still took 2 years to take custody of those kids from her. Stole a backpack full of stuff from where I work. I have to do a stock take. From 4 PM till midnight. With no notice. And you won't pay me. And when I point out that's illegal you say I do it or you'll fire me. Fine. Your stock take might be a bit lower than you thought it would be though. My friend and I both did this. Worked out that in our particular store the best size to value ratio was mates condoms. Stole about 35 packs plus aftershave. Socks. Sweets and some pork for dinner. Friend stole similar amount. Bastard should have paid us. I worked as a manager at a big box pet supply store with in-house cat adoptions. Kittens were always adopted within a week. But occasionally we'd have older cats, 8 years plus, who would stay with us for months. All cat adoptions come with a coupon book for supplies. Anytime a family adopted a senior cat, I manually entered a tremendous amount of coupons into the register. My longtime girlfriend's little sister was in an abusive relationship and refused to leave. My brothers and I went to the abuser's house with the intent of scaring him out of the relationship. We ended up just beating the shit out of him and he moved out of state a month later. 10/10 would do again. Drove without a license. My car was stuck in a mud pit and needed water while waiting for a rescue, but there was no running water at the barn. So I had to drive my dad's pickup home, about 10-15 minutes away, to fill up gallon jugs and buckets for her. Unfortunately, she didn't make it. I broke into an apartment once to rescue a cat. Previous tenants left her behind with nothing but a dried up piece of bologna on the floor. Turns out the poor thing was pregnant too. Took her in. She had her kittens. And my friends and I found homes for all of them. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts in high school. Like all the other places mentioned, I was supposed to throw out the donuts and bagels at the end of the night. On the weekends a bus driver at the local college would come in at close and I would give him everything so he could feed the starving drunk college kids on his bus that he was driving from the bars back to their dorms. He said it made them quieter, less likely to damage the bus, and a lot less vomit. My great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, can't remember which, stowed themselves illegally on a boat coming to the US from Czechoslovakia. They were illegal immigrants all their lives, I think, and that's how my mom's family line got here and lead to me. The grandpa stayed in Czech and went to war. He never came back and the family never heard of him, so we assume he died in the war. My newest neighbor introduced himself and after about a week told me of his brain tumor. He said none of his medication would allow him to function without pain and he asked for some marijuana. I took everything I had and made some epic edibles for him. He said it was the only thing that let him sleep an entire night. About a week later he came over with a picture of himself and a thank you card. The following day his name appeared in the local obituary. Friend had a job that lasted 3 months at the local Best Buy Geek Squad. The policies made him feel sick. He was told to deny any warranty work he could and try to sell the customer on unnecessary repairs or a new, more expensive device. He made sure that every repair was covered by their warranty. By made sure, I mean that he'd break something on your laptop or tablet to make sure that your repairs were covered by warranty. These services were not appreciated by the Best Buy he worked at. They threatened legal action and fired him. About 20 years ago as a notary, I notarized a forged document for my mother. My father ran off to Mexico with his new wife and was listed as joint owner on the house my mother paid off. So I notarized the quitclaim deed. Of course, he came back around looking for his share of the house after my mother passed away from lung cancer. And all hell broke loose. Court battles ensued. But the judge, seeing that my mother paid all of the property taxes from her personal account, sided with me. My father had no claim since he paid no taxes. Karma is a rick.